Well, Anthony Albanese today was also forced to rule out changes to negative gearing, this as the issue of housing supply continues to escalate. He's under pressure from some Labor MPs, also Labor figures at National Conference who want to put this issue back on the table. James, this is an unpopular policy. Why is Albanese now under pressure from his own party to revisit it?
Well, it depends on who you want to say it's unpopular with. I mean, negative gearing is very popular with older people in the population.
Oh, no, I mean changes to negative gearing policy
are very unpopular.
unpopular.
They are unpopular.
I mean, yeah.
Sorry, Sherry. No. They are unpopular, but, you know, he's being dragged to the left by the left wing of his party. And, of course, the fact that you've got these Greens who he is in virtual coalition with, you know, they went out today and they also said it's time to do something about negative gearing. But this has become sort of this totemic issue that's almost beyond the economics of it. You know, you could end it tomorrow and it's not going to make any more houses available. In fact, it might make the situation worse. But what it's about, though, is about people on the left not liking people, ordinary Australians, using property as a vehicle to build wealth. That's what this is really about, Shari.
Look, still on the housing issue, the new New South Wales Labor Premier Chris Minns, there's criticism that he is going against his election commitment of no privatisation. He argues against this, but the government says it's open to selling public land to developers. This is part of the argument about unlocking land because there is this housing crisis at the moment. Chris Minns is also pushing for councils to allow development to go up, to have more apartment blocks. You know, he says that the building of apartment blocks is at its lowest level since 2014. So, you know, this is an interesting debate as well that's happening in New South Wales.
Yeah, look, I think the arguments that he's, privatizing by giving public land to build some, new housing, I don't think that that's quite the sort of privatization that people generally think of, selling off a utility, selling off a road, selling off that sort of thing. But I do think Chris Minns here, he makes some fundamental mistakes here when he talks about what we want to be as a city here in Sydney. He says, well, New York never says it's full. Well, the reason why New York doesn't say it's full is because New York is actually shrinking in its population. And the trend lines around the world is, in fact, that many cities are starting to lose population. And we need to be thinking not just in terms of how do we solve the immediate crisis of the next year, 2, 5 years, but what do our cities look like when we're all working from home, when everybody in the service sector is largely working from home, when there's AI doing lots of jobs? And I worry that we're going to build a city for tomorrow that's not going to age well, and it's going to be, not where people want to live in 20 years. Yes, I understand there's a crisis, but, you got to be really thoughtful and think long-term about bricks and mortar, which takes a long time to build and a long time to undo if you get it wrong.
All right, well, that debate will forge ahead. Now, finally, James, the outgoing head of the Australian Workers' Union, Dan Walton, he's put an interesting proposal on the table as he leaves, and as I say, he's a union leader. He's saying that we should be putting a punitive tax on our rare mineral exports to China. And he's also speaking about lessening our reliance on China as a trading partner. What do you think about this?
Look, I'm a big fan of Dan Walton's, and, I'm sorry to see him go as head of the AWU. He's one of the most reasonable, interesting, smart people in the union movement, and he'll be a real loss to that, I think. As far as this proposal, though, goes, it's an interesting idea, but I think it's a bit half-baked because, well, China's just going to get its minerals from somewhere else and probably someplace with a lot less environmental protections than we have here in terms of getting stuff out of the ground. But I'd rather see something rather than punitive, some sort of way to encourage us to have more industry, to take that lithium and all the other critical minerals we're pulling out of the ground and turn them into things here, turn them into batteries, turn them into chips, turn them into those value-added goods. I don't think a tax on stuff going out the door, is really the way to do that. But I think the end goal that he's talking about is a worthwhile one.